Late Ill Kid at OneYoungsta, hold it down, bring that street geek and nerd soul. What is up, my people, today? Oh, yeah, we are here to do a movie review. Before we get started, to my right, my esteemed colleague, the one, the only, Donica.
It's me! Hi, everybody. I'm Michael. We see each other far too infrequently,
yes.
But for the love of goodness, it's movies that bring us together as a society. It's movies that bring us together as people. I'm real happy to be here, especially with this movie.
Yes. So, this is a movie review. You've seen the title. You know what it is. We're talking about Captain Marvel. Now, this is non-spoiler. We're going to do some spoilers like way at the end. But right now, it's non-spoiler. You don't have to worry anything. We're about to get into it and just, talk about the wonders that you should be able to expect. Mm-hmm. What are your first, initial reactions of it?
This was one of my favorite uses of soundtrack in a Marvel movie since Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Because they didn't just go 90s hits. Like, they could have gone mid-90s hits, but they did, but then they were very specific about their choices. Yeah. And those choices paid off when they were played. And
definitely.
And I'm a fan of a good soundtrack. Now, in terms of, some friends of ours in the review space are like, there hasn't been, a good soundtrack. There isn't a good theme. I don't recall a theme, but there was one part where, there was a swell of music, but it was more like hero,
but it wasn't time.
But the soundtrack fills that void, I think, because there are a couple of songs that they use that are so iconic that when paired with Carol make those scenes even more iconic.
Yeah.
And so I love the soundtrack. Brie Larson is Captain Marvel. I can't imagine who else they could have gotten. This was a wonderful, and also her and Sam Jackson, amazing on-camera team.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Very good chemistry. Yeah. Very good chemistry. That I did not expect. They even throw some tricks in there for us, which is great. Now, for me, you guys know, I love the action. There's this one moment that I'm like, man, I kind of want to go play Rainbow Six a little bit. There's so much action in this, and man, some hard hits.
Super solid. There are a couple of parts that I wish weren't in trailers, but other than that, they still stand up. You gotta see, they make any Marvel movie that even kind of relates to the cosmic, you have to see on a screen. You can't wait till that comes out and you watch it on your little iPod. You gotta go see that in the theaters.
Yeah, this is one that in the theater works because it's so grand. Hala's grand, Earth is grand, anything in space, and just see, wow. There's some movement in here that, from fight scenes to even choreography with flight is just really cool.
I got some
super cool
Independence Day vibes from one of the scenes, from a couple of the scenes. And one of my favorite things that they kept as a format, just because I'm like this, similarly to Guardians or anything that has to do with the cosmos. Well, actually, no, they didn't do it in Avengers. But in terms of Guardians dealing with Cosmic Marvel, they have the titles of the locations come up a certain way, and they had it the same way in this.
And it was very specific in how they did it. It's very cool.
It felt like that's a tag of the Cosmic MCU films.
Yeah. So now you guys know kind of how we feeling about it. So what do you want to get into first? The direction? Do you want to get into the acting?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man.
The direction.
It's hard. It's hard because we just got out and we're hyped. Yeah. So it's I don't know, what do you want to talk about?
But we're hyped for a good reason.
Yeah.
This is directed well. I will say it's paced in a way where there's not too much lull, there's not too much action. They kind of continue you along in a pace where you're like, okay, I'm learning things. I'm learning along with the story. I don't feel lost. And this is actually a movie, if you haven't seen any MCU due to it being in the 90s, I don't think you're lost in this.
There are a couple of references that are reverse references.
Yeah, it's just where in the past, sort of.
You're in the middle, because with Captain America taking place during the Great War.
Now we're in the middle. You're right. We have Captain America.
But even so, there really isn't anything that'll make you go, So
yeah, it's a strangely good standalone within a within a universe of what, like 18 other movies or something like that?
They didn't
a whole bunch of other movies.
There weren't any sort of winks at the camera of we know what's coming next.
Yeah,
it was
there weren't any of that.
They told it was its own story and it got to breathe, and I agree with you. The pacing was very solid. I never found myself going, oh well, this scene's going on too long, or never found like
when are we gonna get to?
Yeah, let's get to the next thing. No, they kept it rolling at a very solid pace. We learned a lot,
and man, you learn so much about who she is, which I think is cool. So it wasn't this situation where they were just like, here's your hero and just accept it. No, we were like, oh, we kind of got to feel for her. She went through
and
things.
It wasn't at the top. It wasn't like here's the story so far. It's you get jumped into this world, and it sort of echoes the story of Carol being jumped into this world and having to deal with it. We're put in the same mind space of, all right, here you go. Now pick stuff up as you go along. Yeah,
it's like you find out when she finds out, and I like that. It's not a situation where we're just like, man, why doesn't she just figure this or that, or why doesn't she just do this or that? We don't know, and we're finding out whether she's in space or on Earth, and it's comfortable. It's like you're in a pocket in this film where you feel like, okay, I'm going at a decent pace. I'm learning. I'm meeting Nick for the first time.
I'm sorry, meeting who?
Oh, excuse me, meeting Fury.
Meeting Fury for the first time.
But really dig it. And then with that said, with the acting, it comes through.
Yeah.
I don't feel like anyone's mailing it in this one.
No. And I love Ben Mendelsohn.
Really?
I kind of liked him in. It's sticking with the sci-fi stuff. I kind of liked him in Rogue One. I could understand his motivations in that. Yeah. But with this was a full. His character in this, without saying too much about it, his character in this is a full 360.
Yeah.
And
he's a very realized character.
Yeah. I was a big fan.
He is a real. Person. But
one of my.
We know he's a Skrull, but he's a real being.
Yeah.
He's not just like, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah,
that's what bad guys do.
Yeah, he's not just a solid bad guy. And that's the thing is it. Yeah, we're with Carol. Just reinforcing, we're with Carol when she's figuring stuff out. When she's wondering,
finding
who's
herself,
here, finding herself, but also Skrull hunting or whatever.
Yeah.
All of this, we're with her on the mission. And oh man,
even figuring out this world, like figuring out Earth, and
there's
just so much that we go on the ride with her.
And even then, it's not. They get rid of the 90s, like the heavy-handed 90s references, like right away, and then we're like, all right, cool, we did it. Now moving on.
With the 90s, I would like to say it was nice seeing the old Impala. I kind of miss that car. The old Impala is a big car. The current Impala is a big car, but the older one was super big. But I was like, man, I kind of miss the old Impala.
Yeah, go find one, see how well it runs.
Yeah, don't try to get like a 95 Impala.
20 years ago, Michael.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, if you find an Impala, if you find one of those Impalas now, they probably don't run too well.
Yeah, it used to be like, oh yeah, this is like a late 90s car. And it's like, whatever, it should run fine. And now it's like, dude, it's like 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's got some age on it.
Yeah.
But when there's kind of like two things going on in this movie where it's like we got to set up, Endgame and Infinity War.
But even then,
you don't feel shortchanged by that. But they don't even really. They don't say, hey, like Iron Man 2 is definitely a movie where they were like, look, all right, Avengers is on the way. They allowed you to know that Avengers is around, but they didn't, I guess, shortchange her story, which is something that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, they didn't. It wasn't, all right, like I said, there aren't a lot of references to other Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Throughout the entirety of the movie. It's not like, and we see a distant purple grimace coming. None of that is like,
I'll do it myself.
There's a bigger threat out there. No, it's still very much, this is the first because no, I'm not gonna say that. But there's it. We are still in the early days of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Like S.H.I.E.L.D. may have started at the end.
Colson has the cool hair. You know?
Dude, the young makeup or CG or whatever they did, like Sam, like he's a little fatter in the face these days.
Yeah.
But he looked almost exact. Like you go back to any of his stuff from the '90s and been like,
you're like, hey, he looks really good.
They pulled him back in time.
The hair and everything.
And then Coulson being younger was just his hair a little bit, just a little bit. Like he was real close to the head, and now it's just like that's it.
But yeah, the references were cool, and they let it be her story. And when you dig into her story, we figure out, like her family and her friends and the life before, and there's so much wrapped up in what she's gone through, which is wow. This is a true hero's journey.
But it's also the trauma. A lot of the stuff, because she doesn't remember anything about her previous life, the stuff that remains is the stuff that hit the hardest and how she recovered from that. And I like how they told that. Is that while these moments may stand out pretty heavily in our minds, that it's not the event itself that defines us. It's not never falling but rising every time we fall.
Yeah.
And the way that they conveyed that, it's being able to just sort of snapshot memories, like it felt like we were having those memories too.
And that's one thing that this movie does a great job of, is you experience her life with her. Mm-hmm. And I got to give that props. I really enjoyed that. So if you were to score this, I know where I'm at. I know where I'm at. I'm going to go in and give my score.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really enjoyed this, man. This is one of the better. Well, you know what? Marvel is on a stride right now. I think Marvel's figured it out. They've been on a stride for a long time.
Very few bad Marvel movies. Very few. And even
this is
like people even going back and watching Iron Man 2 again, now that there's full context, people are like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, like Iron Man 2 was okay. It was okay.
I think Thor: The Dark World is kind of the lowest one, just because it didn't really. It introduced us to the ether. It could have been sweet. It introduced us to the ether, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Like it just gave us the red Infinity Stone.
And Dark Elves could have been sweet, but they
were just faceless, no-name soldiers.
Yeah. And it just ended up going nowhere. But this goes a long way to establishing who she is, establishing who Nick is, or establishing who Fury is. The
strongest character in the Marvel Universe, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as we know. This is the strongest character.
Yeah. And I really dig it. Can't wait to see it again. We're going to go in and give this joint 4 stars. Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm digging this. I'm digging this a lot. It's a great entry. It's one of the better solo films. And it's just infinitely watchable. Like, there's so much about this to enjoy, from the action aspect, of course, the small little riffs about like 90s stuff. Mm-hmm. And then Fury.
Keep doing it, man.
I say Nick like I know him.
I gotta question who you are.
Fury and Carol together are great. And another reason I really dig this, you guys have heard me in all of the trailer reviews. I was never sold on Brie Larson. I'm sold on her. I think Brie Larson is one of those things where, you know how you see a player on a team and they suck, and then they get traded somewhere, and it's like, hey, man.
Flourish.
Yeah, and they flourish. I think this is just one of those situations. Maybe it was the director, maybe it was being with Samuel Jackson, or maybe it was being with the young lady that plays Monica. I mean, not Monica, Maria, or, maybe Kevin Feige, whatever it was. This is one where I felt like she had character. Like, I've seen her in other stuff, and I'm just like, she's just a girl. She could be separate, changed out with anyone. And this one, I'm digging it.
No, this is her.
She pulls off the action. She pulls off the funny. She pulls off the kind of like reflective kind of moments. I dig it. You know what, Brie Larson, good on you. And she watches the show.
She's watching.
So she watches.
Hi, Brie.
So,
friend of the show, Brie Larson.
Friend of the show. You know what I'm saying? So, it's all good. I dig it a lot. I definitely recommend it. And now I want to see it in IMAX. If they have it without 3D. They have just regular IMAX, I want to see it.
And we should say that. We had the choice of seeing it in 3D versus 2D, but just for the sake of not knowing where we would sit and all of that, which
we picked the two.
And then, but Michael was also very nice, wearing 2 sets of glasses for me.
It can get weird.
I deal with it. If it's a movie that I'm like, no, I got to see this in 3D, I will. But for this, I wanted to see it. I think I want to go see it in 3D now. But and give it a shot. But when it came to this, we ended up seeing it in 2D. I'm going to piggyback on you, Michael. I'm gonna say a 4 as well. It's not my favorite, but it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of people's favorites. Like this is, at the very least, I would say this is top 5 for me.
Yeah, it's so solid. As just you learn so much. You learn so much about her. There's so much great interaction with her and
her
Fury,
team and
team. It's just like, wow, this is just a well-made movie, and you can see Marvel getting better and better. It's not like they were bad before, but this is just like a solid movie front to back.
At the same time,
like lulls and nothing.
The fact that it gave me Independence Day vibes makes me feel like the fact that this movie is 95, 96 makes me feel like they went, all right, what's the Marvel Independence Day? And they made it. Like they made a 90s sci-fi movie under the Marvel banner. Because that's one of the things that Marvel, I used to always say, and I kind of say it now, but it used to be more during the beginning. Marvel is a genre studio. It's what sort of a genre are we going to make Iron Man? What sort of genre are we going to make all of the other movies? Thor.
Agree. Yeah.
So like Thor 1 is a historical, but it's with fantasy elements and stuff like that. So this is a mid-90s sci-fi action movie. Yeah. And it checks off all of those boxes.
Everyone.
There's
very well.
I really like how it flips, without saying too much since we're still in the non-spoilery part. It takes a certain amount of things that Marvel fans consider to be absolutes and flips them on their head. Yeah. Like there are a couple of things, at least for Marvel fans at the not I don't mean like elite Marvel fans, but from a little above base to up, something that's been long established, and it flips it on its head and makes it work for the
MCU.
Yes, and it's also got a great message for today.
Yeah, and it also makes you think, and we'll talk about this in spoilers. It makes you think like,
all right. Now what are you going to do?
Like, okay, interesting.
It makes you think about the cosmic universe a little bit differently and wonder if we do stick around in the cosmic universe, how are they going to flip the other stuff that we know?
What are the implications for later on?
Yes. How are we going to flip that stuff and be like, that's how we make that make sense? Or that's because like the MCU's version of Civil War wasn't even close to the comic books version of Civil War. So it's like, what are we doing? Blah, blah,
how are we going to change this? How are we going to flip it?
I
dig it a lot. So, guys, we have gotten to that point. It's spoiler time.
Get out!
If you do not want to know anything, because we're just going to talk about random stuff that we thought was great, and trust me, don't ruin it for yourself. All right? So it's spoiler time. I'm letting you know. Just pause it and go see it, and then come back, whatever. But it's spoiler time, okay? Spoiler time. So you've been warned. From now on, the spoilers.
Vamoose.
Okay.
Goose is the new leader of the Avengers. We don't know how long that species lives. Could still be alive.
It could just be like roaming around as a random stray cat, and you never know.
Never know.
And then it also makes you wonder, well, why Goose scratch Fury? Like
it was bothered because it was like shaking him, like, hey, do the thing. Like he was getting too comfortable, too complacent.
It's like, hey,
I gotta remind you.
Yeah, like, look, hey.
There were a couple of parts where I was a little bit. They didn't necessarily make them big, huge reveals, but when they were calling her Veers, when they were referring to her as Veers, I went, oh, they must have only found that part of the dog tag.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought there was going to be a thing was going to be like, Carol Danvers, that's my name. But they didn't do that. Thank God they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Monica was adorable.
Yes.
I want her to be something. It's been like 15 years.
Technically, now that we know that she's back, I wonder if she comes back and goes looking for Maria and Monica, or if Maria's gone and Monica's here, and then that's how the whole photon thing goes off. Who knows? Who knows? But Monica is here, and Monica knows about powers. She knows about aliens and all that good stuff. Even made friends with some aliens. You know what I'm saying? So
can we go back and look at any time we've seen S.H.I.E.L.D. Like staff and see if Monica works for S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Ooh.
Like, do you like that's? Oh my God! So even
the little one shots. I wonder if she's in one of those.
In Endgame, can you imagine if the S.H.I.E.L.D. response for like, hey, we know Carol's back on Earth. It's Monica coming with a S.H.I.E.L.D. badge.
Because Monica's like, hey, I know her. You know, man. Okay, so also, this movie does a good job of dealing with the fog of war. Because it's like, hey, all this time, we the good guys. All right? We stopping you guys. We the good guys. And then you find out, like, oh.
You see, I kind of wished we got a little bit.
I was one of the bad guys.
I kind of wished, but then it was confirmed by Talon.
Yeah.
That he's like, both of our hands are just as dirty.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I've done dirty stuff. You've done dirty stuff. But it does go a long way to say when you have a society run by AI.
Well, I kind of wished since we had Lee Pace and Jaimin Hansu reprising their roles from Guardians, I was hopeful that we were gonna see the flip there. Like they might be, if they do Captain Marvel 2 and it takes place in space in between this time period.
Say in the early aughts maybe.
Something like that. If it takes place and then we have Ronan the Accuser as a bad guy again, and we see a little bit more of how because one of the big detractions that people have, not me because I loved Ronan, that people had for Guardians 1 is that Ronan was just, hey, he's just a bad guy.
Yeah, he didn't really, because of course they had to make way for Thanos to get some time and all that, and he didn't really get the love that I think he should have gotten. Because
the movie started and they told us what he had done.
Yeah.
It didn't show us because he said, oh, he's a Kree zealot. He just destroys. You just saw him killing a couple dudes.
Yeah.
But in this, you could see the seeds being planted of why he split away from the Kree Empire. And I'm sure it was something related to this moment. And then for a decade, 20 years, when did Guardians come out? 2010?
Yeah, so approximately 15 years.
So 15, about 5 years of final, or however long of splitting, and then just destruction.
Decimation.
Yeah. You see what sort of
decimation, but that'll never. At least I don't think it'll happen.
That's deep. That's deep. But yeah, we got to the fact that we saw a couple of familiar characters, but it wasn't. Hey, remember me from that movie? No, it was these were their lives. This is what they did.
I also like the moment that they kind of sort of like an Indiana Jones moment when it's like, yo, you gotta fight me, take off your power. She was like, no, pow, there you go.
And that's one of my favorite lines.
It's like I felt it was coming. I was like, she's just gonna blast him.
Yeah. But that line, I don't have anything to prove to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't angry.
I don't
owe you anything. That's right. I don't owe you anything.
Especially now that I found out that you've been lying to me for 6 years.
Yeah.
But, I don't owe you anything.
Man.
Makes me wonder where the High Council? No, it's not the High Council. Where the AI is now.
Yeah.
What the AI is doing. If they're still, because they don't reference the AI in Guardians.
Well, no, that wasn't that was Xandar.
Oh, sorry, the Xandar. Yeah, my bad. Sorry, because
that was the Novas.
They were talking about the Kree. They weren't with the Kree.
Yes,
they were the Nova Corps. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Glenn Close, who was also checking out that dude on the Oscar red carpet.
Nova Prime. Yeah, I was kind of hoping we would see some Nova stuff here, but
yeah,
that's fine. It
okay.
didn't need it.
Yeah, I loved how close of a family they became, or kind of when they reconnected, which was cool because, you know, I have friends, I'm sure you have friends where it's like, you don't have to see them for like a year. And when you get back together, it's just like, this is like perfect. We're back together. And they had that moment where you could see, you know, Maria just so like sad and happy at the same time. And then it was just like they picked up right where they left off. Like joking, playing, you saw Monica happy. And then you had that moment with the scrolls that were funny. And then also like, oh, so okay. So we're cool now.
Yeah. So that was one of my favorite things is they took one of the inherent things of Marvel is Skrulls are bad.
Skrulls are bad.
Secret War, Secret Invasion.
Kree aren't great. They experimented on humans and created Inhumans, so they're not super great. And actually, they created Inhumans to fight the Skrulls, so they essentially just did wartime experiments. But it's generally established Skrulls are the bad guys.
Yeah. So, and especially with such a good bad guy as Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, no, they're the bad guys. And then it was just like, hey, okay, all right. And then it dropped. It wasn't like a high, like, it's hard because
now it's like, okay, so I guess they threw the secret invasion out the window. Maybe.
We don't know.
Maybe not.
What if his daughter ends up becoming the queen?
Yeah, or what if it's a situation where it's like, hey, over time, Skrulls have changed into their factions. You got the mean Skrulls, and you got the good ones.
Like, what if, because one of the things that made me go, was when they were proving back and forth that they weren't Skrulls, and Carol just blasts the jukebox, and she's like, well, Skrulls can't do that. And I was like,
but how do I know?
But not just that, but it was, but what about Super Skrull?
Yeah.
Because he can take some powers, can't they?
Well,
but that's science, isn't it?
I was wondering, Super Skrull, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, Super Skrull comes from the Skrulls experimenting with the Fantastic Four.
Correct. It has all 4 of the Fantastic Four's abilities.
Yeah. Now, when the door opened and you saw that huge Skrull, I was like, are they going to do it? Yeah. Are they going to do it? Like, just let his hand become a brick, please. And then when they didn't do it, because technically...
That's just a big dude.
Technically, you can do that without upsetting Fox rules.
But at the same time, that would upstage Carol. Because that would have been a moment where people would have been like, the Fantastic Four, instead of talking about Carol and talking about this movie.
And he was definitely a large guy.
He was a big dude. I was like an 8-foot-tall dude.
The door opened out and be like, all right, I'm out. No, I'm gone.
Oh, man.
But she went at him. She laid into him, and it's still nothing.
The fact that, somebody who can so easily just start swinging metal boxing gloves. Yeah. And they're like, nah, we're going to fight this person. I was like, run, you idiots.
Yo, she destroyed it. Only because I think it's a situation where they don't want to sully her hands. But there's no way those dudes, at least some of them, did not die. At least from a brain aneurysm like the next day. Like, she was hitting guys in the head with like these metal gauntlet thingies.
My favorite one was when she brought the dude's arm down with the taser and tased himself in the head. I was just like, damn!
I was like, oh yeah, he's probably
he's
dead.
Gone. He has shuffled loose this mortal coil.
On Solo when Chewie like straight up slammed this dude on his head, I was like, yeah, he's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead.
There's no question that dude is dead.
If he's not dead, he is paralyzed for life.
Oh man. I mean, it's a very short life because that ship exploded.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it did.
But yeah, the switch it played with. So people who aren't familiar with Skrulls got a chance to just be like, oh yeah, they're the bad guys. Oh, they're not the bad guys. Yeah. But then the Marvel fans are like, Skrulls, they're inherent, like they have these inherent prejudices
we know they're bad.
these inherent prejudices that got resolved. Or at least in the MCU are currently resolved.
And knowing how war changes things. Mm-hmm. Because maybe the Kree were good at one point, but during this war, things have changed.
And
or maybe they were always bad because Marvel had been trying to get them to a safe place.
Man,
maybe Marvel saw the hypocrisy long ago.
Yeah.
You know, so it really changes the landscape for, wow, can we trust Skrulls?
But that's the thing. Will we see Skrulls again? When will we see Skrulls again? They made it sound like their party was very small and there were some scattered ones around the universe.
Pockets,
so that's probably what Carol's been doing these past couple of years.
Kind of reuniting everybody.
Establishing a home base.
So good.
Establishing a home base and then going off on missions to bring everybody back together.
Also, she's got to be extremely powerful to put that huge ship in like warp speed. She was just like, let me give you a little...
She's a hyperspeed engine.
Let me give you a little push. I was like, do they just go to like ludicrous speed?
Because it wasn't the usual way that we've seen hyperspace happen, where they find pockets that are like doorways to go through. It was just pure speed.
She was just like, all right, let's go.
And also she went from, like, I don't know how much of it was for the shot or an establishment of how much stronger she's gotten, but in the first space battle when she had the breather on, and then at the end when she was just bareface, where it was like, oh, so she can...
I can survive in the back of
space.
So she's
good. Yeah. She's good.
It's like, there's not many characters... Well, in the comics there are, but
in
on
the MCU,
it's like her and Thor?
I don't know. He hasn't been
Can Thor survive? No, they haven't really established that. Like, I mean, he was floating in space and landed on their,
True.
And he wasn't dead or like frozen up, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe, because also with at the end of Thor 1, Loki. So maybe Asgardians are fine because Loki drops off the edge of the world and then lands in front of Thanos. So
we'll table that discussion. So now I want to talk about really quick.
God, this movie was great.
After credits or post credits.
Mid credits.
Yeah, the mid credit scene.
So this seems like the exact same thing that we got leading up to Civil War, where it was just a scene from, quote unquote, just a scene from the movie.
Yeah.
And so we got the pager turning off and the Avengers seeing the numbers of people just disappearing.
And being like, yo, well, the thing turned off. It's something the Fury had, I don't know. Let's just turn it back on, I guess.
And that's either it broke or no page was received.
Yeah.
It's like, got it.
It's like, oh.
And especially with how much she's had to work on her powers over these past 15, 20 years.
Yo. She probably instant transmission back. And I know that's DBZ, but don't worry about it.
Well, if
I love how she turned around, she was like, where's Fury?
Where's Fury?
I was like, whoa.
But it's okay. But technically, if she was infused with the power of a photon engine, and she is essentially just a creature of light, she could technically travel at light speed. And after 20 years of learning how to do that, doing that, it wouldn't exactly be just a teleport, but it could be find my place and travel at the speed of light and go and be there.
Yeah, because you're right, she absorbed all of the energy from a light speed engine.
So she is inherently a light speed engine.
Yeah. And now I just want to know, like, has she fought the Black Order? Has she seen them? Does she know who they are? Who because
I know who these boys are.
When you're going other places, maybe it was because the galaxy is not small. Look, there's a video on YouTube that'll show you how small our galaxy is compared. So I mean, maybe she's never really had to deal with them. Maybe she's heard of them, but never really come in contact with them.
Well, if she's doing recon and trying to rebuild the Skrull Society, it is possible that they're just undercover all the time.
Okay.
And just like they hear about it, but are just try to stay away from it in order to properly establish that. And so think about that. You spend 20 years trying to help reestablish this species, and then in a snap, it's half gone.
Yeah, you're right. Because half of them would just disappear.
Mm-hmm. And if she was traveling fast enough to be in another dimension or another realm, that's how she possibly could have been. Similarly to Ant-Man being in the
Because when you travel that fast, it's almost like kind of like on DC side when you go into the Speed Force.
Yeah.
So you're like kind of like not, you're kind of in between dimensions instead of being on our plane of existence.
Yeah.
You know what? That could be real cool. That could be real cool. So the second one was just fun with
Man,
Goose
like,
just coughing up the Tesseract.
I was sitting there being like, where did the Tesseract end up in Avengers? Where did they just grab it from S.H.I.E.L.D.? What is
Yeah,
like? How does he's got to get it back at some point? Oh, so that means Goose either got to poop it out or hairball it up.
Yep, hairball.
God bless America.
Yeah, hairball. And actually, big shout out to some random cat that I saw the other day. I saw a cat cough up a hairball with like some green stuff in it.
Gross.
Like, yeah, it was weird. And I was like, just walking, I was like, is that cat coughing up a hairball? It was just like some green stuff. It was weird. And then, but the funny thing is, the cat just walked off like whatever.
I got it.
It was like, all right, and just walked off. You know, cats, they strong like that. I don't know. But
it's madness.
I love this movie. I do.
This is really solid.
I feel like Marvel has definitely gotten better at dealing with their solo films. I feel like they've gotten a lot better.
Well, it's also better when they so one of the problems that existed once it became clear that we were getting an Avengers movie was that all these people are in the same universe. Well, they have to cross over if they know about it.
Yeah.
And so only in, like, this was definitely an origin story, but it wasn't an origin movie.
Yeah.
And we still got the elements. We got S.H.I.E.L.D. We got the Kree. We got a whole bunch of stuff that's just in between. But I think Doctor Strange is a good standalone movie. I've talked to some other folks that are like, but I really enjoy it because it exists outside.
Yeah, it doesn't specifically depend on the other films. Like that.
So like it happens, and while yes, for a Doctor Strange movie, I wouldn't have picked Caecilius as the main villain, though I'm so excited for 2 because it looks like they're going like Blackheart or Nightmare or one of those just
Blackheart
terrifying.
Would be really cool.
Blackheart would be nuts.
Yeah.
Oh man,
extremely cool.
But that's not what we're talking about. But this as a standalone solo movie tells a hell of a story that you can watch at any time during the DC universe. Yeah. DC. What and the hell?
It definitely gets you amped because it makes sure to remind you Endgame is coming.
Yeah. We got stakes, but at the same time, it's like you can cut it at the credits and be good.
Yeah, it's dope. So guys, holla at us. We're gonna holla at you down in the comments. Let's talk about some Captain Marvel. Now, if you have a spoiler, all right, type spoiler, all caps, and then hit enter like 90 times,
bunch
all right?
times.
And then type what you want to type.
Be nice.
Don't be messing up for people, all right? Just don't do that. Now, to my right, my esteemed colleague, Mark B. Donica.
It's me, the internet's Mark B. Donica. You can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica. I do a bunch of podcasts right now. If you're a theme park fan, I'm doing Party of 2 with my wife. We're doing a lot of stuff coming up. Galaxy's Edge is coming up. There's a big drop last week. We talk about what all of that could possibly mean. We're getting a Hondo Onaka audio animatronic. It's going from the cartoons plucked into real life. We're not even getting him in a movie. Real life. I'll tell you after we stop recording.
I'm not mad at Hondo.
No.
Hondo is. Oh boy.
Talk about that. I've got a wrestling podcast. I've got an animation podcast. We've been talking about Genlock. If you're watching the new Michael B. Jordan joint. Oh boy, is that a good show? The season finale is we're depending on when this goes up. The season finale
this will be up in the morning. It's the morning for you guys now. It's the future for us, and it's past for you. Yeah. And that's how time works.
Either way, Mark B. Donica, find all that stuff, and I look forward to the next time we get together, Michael.
Yeah, it's gonna be the bomb. So guys, I see you. Thanks for hanging out, and we're just saying
peace.